Well, hello and good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our webinar today, StatSoft and Apply Science together, showing you how to unlock the power of Statistica. I think I'll give it another 30 seconds for the rest of the attendees to arrive, and then we get started. Again, welcome everybody to our webinar today. StatSoft and Apply Science together, showing you how to unlock the power of Statistica. This webinar will be recorded, and the recording already started, and it will be provided to you after the webinar as well. Thank you very much for joining today. My name is Nick Verstegen. I'm your host today. I'm joined today by a partner of ours, Luigi Roggia from Apply Science. And we're going to show how it is like to use Statistica coming from other analytical software products and what you can expect on that journey. We're already right into the intro part here. I will give you a brief overview, and then we jump right into who I am, who StatSoft is. Then we're going to see and learn who Apply Science is. After that, I'm going to give you an introduction to the Statistica platform, what Statistica is and what you can expect from the client, and also what you can expect from the server platform of Statistica. And then Luigi will take over and give you insights into the experience of migrating to Statistica and what you can expect from it. We'll have a brief outro, and then we'll cover your questions. The questions, you can enter them in the Q&A functionality here in Zoho Webinar, and they will be collected by my colleague Juliane, who will be then later kind of join in and ask in your questions. So feel free to add your questions to the Q&A functionality, and then we will tackle them later. If we maybe not find the time to tackle all the questions, don't worry, we'll get in touch afterwards. I will tell it multiple times during the webinar, but when you leave the webinar later, hopefully later than earlier, there will be a little small notification for a poll coming up, and we would highly appreciate if you could participate in the poll. It would just take, let's say, 2 minutes of your time, and it will give us a little bit of feedback about how you like the webinar and what other topics you might be interested in down the line. So let's get right into it. Who am I and who StatSoft is? So first of all, my name is Nick Verstegen. I'm a data scientist here in Hamburg, working for StatSoft almost 12 years now. StatSoft has been a software reseller focused on Statistica for several decades now. But over time, we kind of learned that we also need to help our customers with services and building solutions for them in Statistica, but also in other tools. And those solutions usually involve advanced analytics. They can involve machine learning procedures, artificial intelligence, and so on. We've been doing this for very many years, and So providing software, providing solutions, and also helping customers via consulting, via training, and so on. Let's say some years ago, we sat together and kind of thought about what our core principles are. And one thing that we agreed upon that is in the future, everything that can be analyzed will be analyzed. And what we see now at our customers, and maybe even at our own company, is that there's still data sources lying dormant, not being used to create value from them. It might be due to several reasons, but we believe that down the line, all these data sources should or will be analyzed somewhere. And our particular mission for StatSoft is to use this data and create value from it for you, or help you on the journey to create value from your data. And in that process, we're not focusing on a specific industry. We're kind of providing this for everybody, for every company there is, be it small or large, or be it in manufacturing, or be it in finance, doesn't really matter. And in fact, the statistical procedures, when we look at Statistica, for example, they're kind of suited for everybody. So that's important for us. Also, we want to provide solutions that are implemented. And that doesn't mean that we use coding per se, but that we want to get something that works, provide something that our customers can use, integrate in their processes. And there, in that aspect, Statistica comes in very handily. It's easy to use, easy to set up, team members easy to onboard, and you will see, can automate processes very easily. So that's very important to us. When we look at our customers, we have a huge customer base stemming from the decades of operations. You see that there's a strong group of pharmaceutical customers, but it's not exclusive. We do still have other industries as well, in energy, for example, or in chemical production, and even in steel and in science, for example. So that's about it for StatSoft and for me. I now hand over the staff to Luigi.
Okay, thank you, Nick. Hi there, my name is Luigi. I have a background in physics, but since 2006, I've been working as a data scientist and as a consultant and trainer in, statistics, machine learning, AI, and recently generative AI and quantum computing. I'm also the founder of Apply Science. Apply Science is a company dedicated to data-driven things, we could say, but basically what we do is that we apply mathematical methods and models to address business needs, real business needs. So when I say mathematical methods and models, I am including statistics, I'm including machine learning, deep learning, generative AI. The buzzwords are so many, they are ever changing. And so that is exactly what we do. Recently, last year, we also started up an affiliate company, United Kingdom, that it's called Apply Quantum. I'm the co-founder for Apply Quantum, and basically we do the same things with the additional components, of quantum computing and quantum machine learning. Okay, Nick, I switch back to you again.
All right, back to me. Thank you so much, Luigi, for the introduction. Well, let's navigate over to the Statistica platform then. So when I talk about the Statistica platform, it's basically two things I'm going to show to you today. One is the Statistica client, and one will be the Statistica server. First part will be about the client, and I will introduce some basic concepts to you and what you can expect from the software. So first of all, the workspaces, we're going to look into that. That's a major mode of operation of how to interact with Statistica. And we're going to look at data sources and data preparation a little bit and see what capabilities are available for statistics and machine learning. We're going to look at how to integrate Statistica into other tools or to integrate other tools into Statistica. And then we're also going to see what results we can expect. And the server, I kind of squished it down very much to three major aspects: the centralized repository, automation and monitoring, and then also the data entry component. You don't have to have the server, by the way, to use Statistica. Statistica can be a standalone desktop application on your computer, but the server comes in handy for certain aspects we're going to tackle later. Okay, first of all, the workspaces. A feature that the customers of Statistica very, very appreciate. It's a way of interacting with your analyses and your data in a visual environment. And you can see a screenshot of it here, kind of having nodes representing data sources, being connected to analytical steps, kind of calculating some results, being processed in other analytical steps, and then finally a report being generated from it, or reports being generated from it. Why is that helpful? First of all, they're kind of easy to understand when you take these nodes and you can rename and rearrange them, for example, and then the whole workspace can serve as a documentation. Documentation for your future self, because you might forget what you did back in the day for some analytical process, but also as a documentation to be able to explain to your team members what you did and what steps were needed to process the data. And the second aspect of it is that if you design it carefully, it can be an automation of your analytical process. So this workspace can be rerun all over again. And oftentimes our businesses work like this. So new data arrives and we need to do the same analysis all over again. And with the workspace, you can just automate it. Well, the workspace would be useless without any data to process, and Statistica has us covered here. So I would say that you can kind of access all data sources with Statistica. So of course, file-based data sources, obviously Statistica's own file formats, but also file formats from competing products like SAS, SPSS, and Minitab, for example. By the way, those files can be read into Statistica and also be written out. So it's easy kind of to integrate Statistica with the other. You can import Excel files easily and also export to Excel. And Excel might be the most popular data science software there is. So that's good. And CSV and text files you can also import. I would say most popular file types are being covered. And you can also access databases directly, relational databases via SQL or cubes via MDX. And there's also a connector for OSIPy databases, nowadays called AvivaPy. There's even more capabilities to this, but I can tell you on every slide, I will tell you there's even more capabilities. I just have to select some to present in such a short webinar. After you have imported the data to Statistica, I mean, in ideal world, we would just use our analyses and analyze away. But as we are not living in ideal world, but instead in the real world, we need to prepare some data. And during trainings, I tell my attendees that kind of when you're optimistic, 80% of the work you do is data preparation, and when you're realistic, it's more like 90%. Statistica also has you covered there. First of all, the workspaces are a very nice way of arranging data preparation steps. But then Statistica has all sorts of capabilities to help you with it. Clean up errors in your data, fill in missing information, combine data sources, and combine data sources kind of from the data sources you imported. So you could combine an Excel sheet with an SPSS file with something loaded from the database. Wouldn't be a problem in Statistica. You can reduce complexity and also deduct new information. Of course, there's kind of, those are just the headlines. There's more behind it. We could talk over the details if you like. That's the way it is. And it's very important. You probably will do a lot of data preparation. Customers need a lot of data visualization and some customers don't. They just focus on KPIs. I don't know what you like best, but data visualization capabilities can come in very handy to draw conclusions and to understand what is going on in your data. Statistica has a very broad range of visualization capabilities, and this is just a selection. There's histograms in there, scatter plots, box plots, variability plots, contour plots, and many, many more. You can see some examples on the slide. But you can also see that those visualizations are highly customizable in Statistica. So especially the last screenshot here, there's one screenshot that was presented by a customer of ours during one seminar we had. It's a highly customized version of a certain plot, introducing many, many different aspects. And I have to admit, for me, or for, I guess, the layman, there's not really much we can make out of it. But the customer needed it like that. And Statistica's capabilities are as flexible to build such a diagram or build such visualizations if you need them. So there's many, many options for these diagrams. You can apply different styles. You can adjust the scaling. You can have multiple axes. There's transparency options. You can add in categorization. You can add fitting curves of different types of fits. You can add in statistical measurements and much more. The software is being called Statistica, so one of the expectations could be that there's a lot of statistics inside of it, and you would be right to think so. I would say Statistica covers all of the bases you could ever want. There's of course kind of the foundational statistical methods in there, descriptive statistics to calculate means and deviations and so on. There's also comparison of means in there, regression modeling, non-parametrical tests, and so on. And then there's kind of the applied statistics, where I would say the foundational methods are being used in a specific context. Statistica has capabilities for statistical process control, for capability analysis and quality control charts. They're kind of closely related to one another. Also for design of experiments in Six Sigma, stability and shelf life analysis, survival and reliability analysis, and time series analysis as well, and more if you need that. Sometimes those statistical methods, they are maybe not suited to your individual data sets. Might be that you have data that is not kind of collected to be analyzed by statistical methods. And then machine learning and data mining capabilities can come in handy to kind of expand your capabilities to analyze your data. And in that regard, Statistica also keeps you covered. There is feature selection methods in Statistica. There's a huge range of decision tree methods. Decision trees can be used to understand your data, but they can also be used to create predictions. With mass splines, which is kind of a mix of regression and decision tree modeling. And then the higher level, I would say, machine learning procedures like artificial neural networks or support vector machines. And then also the kind of lower level or older methods, naive Bayes and K-nearest neighbor. And not only are these methods available, there's a very nice engine around them. So if you have fitted such a model, and by the way, the same was true for the regression models from the slide before, if you have fitted such a model, you can easily use it for prediction. And there's a rapid deployment engine that can apply your models very easily on new data sets. There's response optimization to test your models. And you can also export models outside of Statistica into programming languages, for example. Then we have some unsupervised learning methods as well, cluster analysis, association rule mining, and then there's also text mining capability available in Statistica to analyze kind of free-form texts. When we're looking about integrating other platforms, Statistica can easily integrate R and Python and also Visual Basic and C#. Those are per se analytical platforms, but R and Python are. They can be contained in such workspace nodes and be integrated in your workspaces. And you can also do it the other way around and take Statistica and have it work as a backend. So Statistica is being integrated into a Spotfire dashboard, making it possible to have a dashboarding front end with strong analytical capabilities in the backend. Why would you want to do that? So for example, you have already created some developments and you want to still use them even though a new platform arrives, Statistica. Or it could be that Statistica is still missing some features, even though I brag about what it all has, but you might be missing something and then you can expand its capabilities. Well, and then you did all these analytical steps, you get results in the end, hopefully. First of all, there's the workbook, a nice hierarchical container of the analytical data you created. But also you can kind of export everything from Statistica somewhere else. So Statistica can write its result to the file system again, could write it to the database, could write it to other data sinks. The visuals you can export very easily. Statistica has a very seamless integration with Microsoft Office. So you could copy over elements very easily from Statistica to Office. But it's also possible to automate the reporting processes in the end. So take the analytical elements out of the workbook, for example, and insert them into an Office document, a Word template, and in consequence, creating a report automatically. That's also possible with Statistica. All right, so much for the client. I will rush a little through the server component, don't worry. So that was a client you're usually confronted with as a data scientist. You use it to achieve some analytical insights. Now the server comes into play. Kind of made out of three things that are of importance, I would say. One would be a centralized repository. So in that repository, you can store all your analytical building blocks, the data sources, data connections, the workspaces, fitted models and business rules, and so on. And they can then be in a centralized location, not on your desktop anymore, but centrally stored. And there's a lot of security aspects to it. So you have user rights and user groups to manage access. There's a versioning capability, so nothing gets ever lost if you kind of make a change to the system, but you can always go back a version. You can implement approval processes. There's audit trail capabilities, and you can install all of this in stages. Then there's the automation part of things. So now you can take the server, and server does things for you. You don't have to do them on your desktop anymore, but you can run them on the server, either be it manually or on a scheduled basis. So maybe your report has to be created every week, then the server can do it and kind of free your desktop or free your environment from executing that. The server can also be talked to via a web service interface, so another system could trigger something on the server. And the server can also be used for monitoring and kind of monitoring your production processes, sending out alarms when something goes wrong, and so on. And last but not least, there's a data entry capability in the server, so you can digitize your data entry processes, especially in laboratories. Sometimes your experts, they measure something, write it down on paper, and then later on transfer it into an Excel file to upload it to the great data lake. It's a very error-prone process, and with data entry, you can make it more robust by having kind of digital data entry forms that you configure. Users enter the data via a web browser. They have to log in first. And then there's all sorts of checks that come with it, like type and range checks, but also you can have approval processes again, or double-blind data entry, where two persons have to insert the data, and only if it matches, it gets kind of submitted to the system. All right, last slide for this part. Why is that interesting for regulated industries? So for one, kind of in the platform, having those access restrictions, having approval processes, having versioning capabilities, it makes the system much more robust and reliable. You can kind of guarantee that there's no changes to the system that are not kind of planned for. There's also stages, so you can develop on one stage, test on another stage, and have production on the third stage. That would be a very popular setup scenario. That's also possible with the server platform. It's audit trail capability, so you can always see what's happening in the system. And you can make a lot of documentation. We already kind of heard about it regarding the workspaces, but all the other elements also can be documented. And feature-wise, there's the data entry capability I already talked about. Statistica is a low-code, no-code environment, so you do not need, or you can forego of any programming if you like to, which makes validation processes much easier and much less cumbersome. Statistica comes with a lot of analytical capabilities, so you don't have to find a lot of strange workarounds. There's a high degree of automation, freeing up your expert resources. Statistica comes with a lot of documentation about what the algorithms are and so on. So it's a lot of reliability there. And finally, it's a proven solution in the industry. And with that, I'll hand over to you, Luigi, for the next part.
Okay, thank you, Nick. I become a presenter and share my screen again. Okay. So, in my part, I'm going to tell you about my personal experience in the migration from Minitab to something else, that is Statistica. And but first of all, let me start telling you that I'm first of all a user, but a user that, having a consulting company, must take seriously care of the requirements of our customers. So when we started to look for something else after hundreds of people trained in statistics with another software and years of activity, well, it happened because actually we had some clear sign from the market, from our customers, that we definitely needed something new, something much more aligned with the trend of this data-driven era in which we live. And in particular, I was looking for a fully featured statistical software, but with a modern and innovative ecosystem. The ecosystem, Nick has mentioned Spotfire, that's a great example. It's very important because when you go from the laboratory to the production environment or to the communication of the knowledge you have gained through your analysis, and you want to communicate it to the managers of your company, to the C-levels, then, well, you need something that is able to communicate the results of a technical tool without being technical. So you need an ecosystem of tools that can be merged together in order to address different needs of different users. First point. Next, also, we are data scientists after all. So we also definitely need something that is not only statistics, statistical learning, quality statistics, and so on, but we need something that is also able to run machine learning. And that was another point. All the other statistical tools, especially Minitab, is extremely weak from the point of view of machine learning, because true algorithms doesn't make a software a machine learning software. So that's, and also there's the problem of how you use the model that you have created. And this is another interesting point, because we need a software that is able to publish the results, publish the models, and make them usable in production environments, not only on my single laptop in my laboratory. No, I want it to go live in production, and that's not an easy step. So we needed some technology able to support us in this process. Also, there's the point of highly regulated industries. Applied Sciences working with a lot of pharmaceutical and medical devices companies, so that's an issue. I mean, when the industry is highly regulated, you need to take care of a lot of constraints. And those of you coming from the pharmaceutical industry, I'm sure you perfectly know, for example, the FDA guidelines and so on. So we need something that is really compliant with FDA guidelines, fully compliant. And this was another very important point for us. And without that, the server side of the software, you cannot grant, for example, data integrity, which is an important point. So this was another very, very fundamental point for us. I was saying we are data scientists, so being able to work also when needed with programming languages such as R or Python, that makes a lot of sense to us. So we needed a real usable integration with R and Python. It doesn't mean that you need to use a programming language in Statistica, but if you need it, you must be able to do that. And in Statistica, you are. So that's a very important point for us, because sometimes to provide you as final users some KPI, maybe behind the curtains, we need to compute some very complex descriptors. And so think, for example, of predictive maintenance, which is quite common as a request. Okay, maybe you need to compute a Fourier transform. And how can you do that? With Python, it's very easy. With R, it's easy. So you understand that is why we need it, because we are the authors of solutions, of final solutions, ready out of the box for you as users. And also, yeah, we need something that we really appreciate, that drag and drop panel that Nick showed you, so that we can create. But why we love it? Why we love it? It's not for us, directly for us, because we can code, so it's not exactly for us. but it is for the interaction with you as final users. Because with the workspace, what we are able to do is that we can design the pipeline of algorithms that you need. We design it, you see it, you can understand it in a very easier way. We can communicate to you what's happening, okay? And we can modify it when needed without going crazy, because we see it, it's very simple. And most of all, we design the pipeline, we provide it to you, we say it's correct from the statistical point of view, go ahead. You just need to add your data and then click run, and you will have the report ready immediately for you. Nothing else to do, nothing else to do. And that's extremely important for us as a consulting company, because we can provide usable and easy to use solutions based on a technology that has a solid background. And last but not least, as an ex-Minitab user for years, I was personally going crazy with large projects, because there's no complete or easy, there's no way actually to manage large projects. I mean, you create a lot of analysis, you create a lot of reports, you have multiple data sources, and you go crazy, because in the end, you just have a navigation panel listing every possible action you did. And if it is tens of actions with multiple data sources, you go crazy in the end. So having the workbook, which is the tool that Statistica uses to manage the whole project, it's an incredible step forward for us. So yeah, we moved definitely away from Minitab after years, okay? And now we are extremely satisfied as users, as consultants, as trainers with Statistica, because we found statistics, machine learning, R and Python integration capabilities with, let's call them big data. We have drag and drop capabilities. It's integrated with the Word, basically. It's okay for our pharmaceutical customers. And if we need to add something, we can customize it a lot, completely, I would say, because we can add functions, all the functions we want, and made them available to you through a menu. You will never understand that it's something added. It will integrate naturally in the system of Statistica. So it's amazing for us. And the migration, what about the migration? Because you could say, yeah, well, okay, but you are maybe a little bit, you have a bias, okay, but yeah, that might be, because I'm a professional working in the field, so maybe for me it's easier. So I wanted to test myself. And when I migrated to Statistica, I decided to do it on my own. No tutorials, nothing. Just me knowing statistics, not Statistica. So I discovered the software by doing, and it was extremely simple and easy. And in a while, I was able to, to run all the analysis I was running in Minitab in Statistica. For example, for those of you coming from Minitab, I think you see this plot and think it's a graphical summary from Minitab. No, actually it is from Statistica. But this is just to show you that starting from the very simple things that maybe you do them daily, well, you can have them exactly in Statistica. So the migration from a human point of view, how you feel, maybe alone, a little bit scared. No. There's no fear, no issues, because you can have exactly the same things. It's extremely simple. Then you discover that there's a lot more. That's the amazing point for us. For example, what you see here is a plot, obviously, belonging to the analysis of a design of experiment. Now, again, for those of you coming from Minitab or other statistical softwares, because I've been using also others, so I know how they work. In Minitab, for example, you can create a surface plot, you can create a contour plot, but they are separate. And here, for example, I know it's a simple thing, but it's in simple things that you can find relevant differences and announcements, because it is where every user is putting his fingers and creating a personal experience. So here you can have the contour plot and the surface plot together. And this is extremely helpful when you try to communicate, both in training or in consulting, how the model that you have created is actually working, because they can see it. They can understand much better what the contour plot is, what they can expect from the process, because that's exactly the fingerprint of the process made clear from a visual point of view. And you can see also your experimental points. Those blue points are your experimental points. That's very useful, even if it's simple, but that's incredibly useful, because the people that we have in our statistical classes, they understand finally what a model means, how mathematics is connecting to reality. This is just one of the many examples. And I also discovered through the years, to be honest, that as a Minitab trainer, I was developing a sort of cognitive bias about normality. When you come from Minitab, you are very, very concerned about normality of your data set. Well, when you move to Statistica, you discover, for example, that Statistica is able to create control charts for non-normal data, but not through a transformation of the data. No. With other statistical methods, you can use your original data set and create a control chart. And when it is a matter of capability analysis, okay, to see how many products will be out of your specification limits and so on, well, again, in Minitab you have two choices. You transform your data, and then the business people do not understand why the numbers did change so much, okay? And it's very complicated to manage. It's not a brilliant idea when you talk to business then. Or you can try your own to fit the distribution and cross your fingers, okay? Here, you do not have to do anything of the above things, because automatically you will have a capability analysis for the case your data is normal, and a capability analysis for the case when your data is not normal. And so you don't have to do nothing. It's easy. It's extremely simple for you. Now, just a very quick, some other very quick points to close my speech. This is off topic for today, but this is machine learning in Statistica. You can drag and drop. You have visual results. You don't have to code. Everything is ready for reporting. You can change your descriptors in a while. It's incredibly easy. And to me, and remember that data science is my daily job, to me, this is something very precious, because it lets me save a lot of time. Then, just to take a look at the Statistica and make you safe that you will find everything you might need. Basic statistics, we have it. You need regression, you need analysis of variance. You want to go very, you want to have a deep dive into regression modeling, that is also called the statistical modeling. Well, here in Statistica, you have a lot of methods to create a regression model and to run analysis of variance. There are many more methods here than in Minitab or other statistical softwares. So from the point of view of regression modeling, yeah, you're absolutely gaining new capabilities. Power and sample size analysis, don't worry, we have it. What about control charts? Here they are. We have them, all of them. And if you want, we also have multivariate control charts. And also we can have control charts with prediction. And what about capability analysis that we mentioned? What about reliability and warranty analytics, measurement system analysis, that for the guys from pharma industry, it means all the tools you need for the product quality review and the quality assurance process. Yes, we have all of them. And what about the design of experiment? Well, you have everything you have in Minitab and a lot more. And that's a very important point. I will not dive into the machine learning panel, which is this one, because maybe in a next webinar dedicated, just let me highlight that when it comes to plotting capabilities, well, you have a lot, 2D, 3D, and a lot of contour plots as well. So you can do a lot more than in other softwares. Big data and publishing, okay, maybe in another webinar, but because Nick already discussed them. Last thing, this is a workspace. Here we have the data. I created some analysis, dragging and dropping. Okay, it's extremely simple. When I say drag and drop, I mean you just click a functionality, you have it, you connect with your mouse, and then you configure it and you run it. Okay. Then in the end, we'll have a reporting document. Here it is. So you see a workbook with your own eyes. This is a workbook. It contains all the results from my analysis. And as you can see, they are organized with folders and subfolders. I can rename, I can create new folders, I can do whatever I want, and I can go around exploring my results and so on. So there's really a lot that you can do. It's just up to you. You can explore everything. And for those of you loving Six Sigma, remember that here we have a menu dedicated, completely dedicated to Six Sigma, organizing all the steps according to the DMIC procedure. Well, that's it. As you can understand, there's really a lot that we could say, but this is just an introduction. So, well, I think it's enough. And Nick, get back to you.
Thank you very much, Luigi, for your insights. I'll hop back into my screen, and you see we're almost at the end of our webinar. So thank you very much, Luigi, for the presentation. Well, let me conclude with some final words. So I hope that you today were able to grasp some ideas about how Statistica works and what capabilities it has and what it brings to the table when you, for example, move from Minitab over to Statistica, what you can expect there. Before we move to the questions part, and I will ask you, Jan, in a second about if there are any questions, let me still encourage you, if you leave the webinar, please participate in our poll today. Give us some insights in how you felt and maybe what are other topics that you want us to cover, because you might have gotten some ideas about what would be interesting for you, hopefully, from this webinar. And then we can, of course, create a new webinar, the next one directed at you or based on your inputs. So your input in the poll is highly appreciated. But let's move over to the questions then. Juliane, tell us, are there any questions from the audience?
Yes, Nick, there are some questions. I have seen 3 up to now. And I would like also to encourage all the other people that haven't put any questions, but you have doubts, just put them in the Q&A part, which is on the left side of your screen. But let's just dive into the questions that we already have first. So the first question is, we do have some analytical developments in R. How can they be integrated in Statistica?
That's a very good question. Maybe I'll take it. And Luigi, if you have something to add, please interrupt me or expand. So what I would encourage is, first of all, look at what you did in R and understand what you created there. And then if if needed, we can easily move it over to Statistica using the R integration, which has been a very mature integration, by the way. It's not just arrived in the software, but it has been around since also decades now. So it has proven in practice, and then we can move it over, and you can still use your R features. You can even be able to distribute them among your organization now, because every Statistica user could use your R features that you integrated, instead of how it was before, that kind of maybe you were the R programmer and it was kind of locked into your environment. Can now be free and be used inside the complete platform.
Okay, thank you, Nick. Then I'll move to the next question, which is, we do have an existing analytical platform that we use for the main processes. How do we get started with such a migration project?
Yeah, that's also a very good question. Maybe I also go first, Luigi, but add in, because I guess you have a lot of Minitab migration experience there as well. First would be also understanding what you're currently doing, and it might be clear to you, but it's not always clear to, let's say, to StatSoft or to Apply Science. It's really a matter of getting to understand what is going on. And what we also experience very often that in projects like this is that when I say we talk to the customer, it's actually, let's say, dedicated persons that are in charge of such a project. But in fact, it's more persons somewhere in the organization again that do, let's say, consume results or that do the analyses. And maybe the project is being driven by IT, and maybe they don't know what's going on from an analytical perspective. So it's important to kind of gather all these people together, or at least maybe not in the same room, but maybe have a survey or something where we kind of get to know what the people are using in the current platform. And then we can create a migration plan kind of to move that over, kind of the existing features or the existing functions and processes, but also move over the people, kind of inject know-how into the team about the new platform and train them. And then that all comes together kind of in the new platform. Then, so kind of the plan would be understanding first what's going on, then moving over the individual parts of your organization, be it people or processes.
I would add that if your analysis are now based on Minitab, it means that your data set is prepared for Minitab. And that's the great news, because if data can work, if your data set is okay for Minitab, it will be okay for Statistica as well. I mean the data format, because every analytical software or programming language is working with data organized by columns. That's how Minitab works. And so moving your data from Minitab to Statistica is just a matter of copy and paste. Creating the analysis, well, we do not need to code, so it's just a drag and drop, and the pipeline is done. For example, a product quality review for a pharmaceutical company, okay, that's drag and drop, connect your data. If they come from a database, it's not a problem. It's a plus. Often it's a plus, and the game is done just in a while. Quite different is if your analytical software now is Excel, because your data will be colored and formatted, and so that's another topic. That's another topic.
Okay, great. Thank you both. one last question from the chat. Are there trainings available for Statistica, also trainings for specific industries, trainings that go deeper than a basic introduction?
The answer is yes. Yes,
Could you explain
StatSoft,
that?
yeah, the StatSoft takes pride in having a lot of dedicated trainings available, and I guess it's the same with Apply Science as well. A lot of very good, very trainings with a also long history of being created, with a lot of experience being kind of ingested into the trainings over time. Yeah, just get in touch what you need. We have standardized trainings, and we can also create individual trainings as well and find the perfect fit, especially considering what your team is and what your current expertise level is. It might be very easy to get started.
And also something that we see our customers are really enjoying a lot is that we can create, if you need it, some sort of training on the job. That means we use our training material, so our examples, our data sets for training to start, but then we can go on with your data. So you learn what is an analysis of variance. Okay, let's learn with a standard data set, okay, to make it clear, then move to your data set and see what happens, so that what you learn becomes very connected to your world, to your reality.
Okay, thank you. No more questions at the moment from the audience.
All right. So thank you everybody for sending in questions today. Let me have one concluding slide here. So what's next? You can visit StatSoft's website here. Don't worry, the link will get to you in a follow-up email, so you don't have to write it down. If you have any follow-up questions after the webinar, don't hesitate. Get in touch with us and ask. We will gladly answer anything, and also dive into individual sessions if need be to explain the nitty-gritty details. So concluding, thank you so much for joining today. Thank you so much, Luigi, for joining today and sharing your experience with us. Please participate in the poll. My name is Nick Verstegen. Thank you so much. Have a good evening.
Thank you very much. Cheers.
Bye-bye.